Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a senior and accomplished professional from Chicago, USA, Linda Berger. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here.
Thank you. Linda is the founder of Mission Led Institute. She's also the creator of the Mission Activation Framework. So, Linda, my first question, what inspired you to create the Mission Led Institute? What gap in the market were you trying to solve through the Institute?
Well, I created the Institute to be a house, a home for my method, which the methodology was created over 27 years of working with business owners at different levels. And I decided to rebrand it into an institute so it has a home so I can create certification because it's something that is structured and can be repeated very easily once it's taught.
Okay. And how does your framework differ from traditional strategic planning models?
Well, most coaching and consulting companies use look at the organization from a just reorganizing it, working with the ownership's mindset. What needs to be, what does the business need to look like to fit into the ownership's idea or model of what it should be? Where we come in, where the framework happens, is I work in the opposite direction. I listen to what the owner is saying about the business, but I come from the business's side of its signals to see where it's trying to restructure and grow into. What is its next level of evolution? And then it comes back to recalibrating, working with the owner through strategies to help the company grow into the restructuring process. So it's creating a new architecture for the business, but at the same time, ownership is being recalibrated and restructured also. So typically, what my experience has found in working through this methodology is that there's a pattern that the ownership is stuck in. And that pattern needs to be either changed or moved around to move the business forward. And while the business is restructuring, and this doesn't have to be like monumental or creating chaos in the company, what it's doing is it's helping the owner expand their idea of what the business is trying to evolve into. So they're both evolving at the same time.
Amazing. What, in your view, are some of the most common warning signs that a mission-driven company is stuck in an outdated operating model?
Oh, wow. And this is where I want business owners to be able to identify these signals because it's as though they're reading the business's mind of where the business wants to go. So sometimes it's, and this is where I call a friction lock, the inflection point. And it's typically, it could be there's something going on with the team where the team isn't working fluidly and getting things accomplished, or things are slowing down. It could be the financials where suddenly there's a drop or there's a change or there's a block. There could be situations where the owner is blocking leadership from doing what they can do, like using their own brilliance, where ownership is micromanaging them instead of allowing them to become and use their intelligence that they were hired for to pay attention to what is the business signaling. It's not always about what's happening outside the business. It's where's the business starting to evolve into, because all businesses have a mission, whether we acknowledge it or not. There's a reason for its formation. And once we can identify that that it's stuck in a growth, that it's ready to move outside of it,
Mm-hmm.
we have to identify what that is trying to tell us and then identify in the owner
Mm-hmm.
where they're stuck in what their idea of the business model is supposed to be. A lot of
Interesting.
time it has to do with ego.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just that what started it doesn't work for the next level.
Mm. Well said. Can you explain for my viewers and listeners the core principles behind the mission activation framework?
Absolutely. It's really, we work in 90-day containers. Everything, I don't use long-term retainer coaching packages. Everything is done within 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So before we even get to any strategy or plans, I talk to the owner to find out what they think is going on. What I'm able to do is to read between the lines to find out exactly where that ownership is stuck in a pattern. And then I do what I do is I identify where the business is trying to go. I recognize signals, I identify them, and then I bring that's when the planning and the strategies come into place.
Mm.
So it's listening to what the ownership is saying. Sometimes they feel that it's a partnership problem or it's a team problem or it's a this problem. But I'm listening to that, and at the same time that I'm listening to it, I'm identifying what they're not saying, what
Mm.
they're missing, because by the time a business gets to that inflection point, ownership is under so much stress that
Mm-hmm.
they can't really see clearly through to the end of what they're trying to create. So they're
Right.
going back to trying to recreate what they've already recreated, which isn't working.
Mm.
So that's
You,
the
yeah,
first thing. Oh,
yeah.
I'm
Please
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, please
So
go
that's
ahead.
the first part
Yeah.
of it. And then the second part is, okay, let's develop a strategic plan that works around the friction lock that the owner is in, their old patterns. So
Mm-hmm.
we work around it to accomplish what the business is trying to tell ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens at the end is that the business is now moving, but ownership has changed their view of what the business can look like.
Okay. You also say that you assess the natural direction and readiness of a business. What does this
Yes.
process look like in practice?
So I just explained a little bit of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so how I work, which is opposite of coaching and consulting, I'm an
Mm-hmm.
advisor. And so I look at the business. So you can look at it that I work for the intelligence of the business. Where's the business trying to grow? What's the mission that is trying to evolve and bring ownership, bring the team, bring it all in congruency with its change? That's where I recognize those different signals.
Mm-hmm.
I read those different signals, and then I see where the pattern and that friction lock is with ownership that's holding it down because it's trying to grow. And so I am able to identify what it's trying to say. And
Mm-hmm.
how I do that, I can't even tell you. It's something that is just one of my skills.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
do it backwards. So I go back to ownership and say, okay, it's trying to evolve into XYZ. So we need to create strategy that's going to help you move your way of looking at this business and changing it so it's realigned. I call it recalibration of ownership to
Mm.
what the business is trying to do.
Very good.
The intelligence of the business is never going to hurt ownership. It
Right.
wants to grow.
Yeah, I agree. But many founders are emotionally attached to what made them successful.
Yes,
How do
that
you help
is
them to let go?
that is the challenge because what I've learned is I don't I don't make them wrong. I just let them know that it's a nervous system that has been activated when anything that's going to make them look bad or make them look like they're not really working with the investor's best interest
Mm,
or so what we do is we create this strategy around it that makes them look good in the process of
mm,
change, but also to understand and to align, or I don't like to use that word align, but to recognize that this is the growth pattern that they are following, which makes them feel better because it's not like I'm saying you need to change your mindset or you need to do this. No, you don't need to change your mindset. You need to learn how to identify changes that
mhm.
the business is asking you for. So they're really working together versus the ownership is
Right.
wrong.
Correct. Correct. And what are some of the biggest mistakes you have seen leaders make during times of transition?
Uh, well, first is they wait too long.
Mm. Yep. Yep.
They're
Yep.
usually in a moment of chaos or an emergency, like the
Mm,
911 call for, and that is the worst time possible because
mm,
everyone is feeling stressed. The teams are feeling stuck that they're not able to produce. They're being blamed for non-production.
mm,
If owner is not the actual if owner has leadership in their team, they're pressuring them to create what was created, which isn't going to work. It's just not going to work anymore. So no matter what they throw at the business or at the team or at any type of levels of leadership, it's not going to change because the business is in basically a gridlock. It's stuck.
mm,
And it's not stuck because there's something wrong with it. It wants to grow and so it cannot grow if leadership and ownership are not prepared to support the growth. So
mm,
new systems need to be put in place
mm,
that allow the framework to be built. It's like an architecture, creating new architecture. You're
mm.
not knocking the building
Yeah.
down. You're creating a beautifully designed addition to the what's already been created. So it's
Mm,
a new architecture. So
mm.
the biggest problem is that they wait too long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if more owners can understand the signals, and that's what I teach them, and that's what I work with them, is to identify what the business is trying to say and allow themselves to move into that direction. And
Mm.
that's where I come in is to help them with the
Absolutely.
strategies needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell me, Linda, what role does organizational culture play when a company reaches an inflection point?
Oh, well, sometimes they can be an enabler
Mm,
because they'll just do whatever ownership is telling them to do because, their job's on the line. So they
mm,
have to do that. But also they can be the motivator too, where they can um, help help identify
mhm,
some of the maybe intuitive hits that they've had with the business or from their own experience, their own knowledge, where they can kind of be a little more forceful about this is what you hired me for this, but you're micromanaging me, and I can't use that part of myself, that knowledge, that experience, that talent that I have. Let
mm,
me do that. That would be leading, helping to grow
mm,
by staying micromanaged, that would be enabling and causing the business to really be stuck.
mm.
And for some, especially solopreneurs, smaller companies that
Yeah.
maybe only have 3 to 5 team members,
Mm,
um, that a lot of times they just close the business.
mm.
But to me, I think that's just sad. That's the wrong thing. It's
Correct.
because they don't have the correct advisor to help them shift into what the business is trying to help them grow
Mm,
into.
mm. Amazing. Your clients describe your work as McKinsey meets conscious leadership. How
Yes,
do rigor and
yes.
intuition work together?
That's a great point. Okay, so first of all, I want you to know that when I talk about intuition, I am not talking about woo-woo stuff,
I know.
okay?
Yes,
I
yes.
am talking about our natural ability to
Correct.
get a feeling, like a gut feeling,
Mm.
or where you're able to something's not right, something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So McKinsey, they are all about numbers, data, the rigor of that. But what
Mm.
happens is if you just follow that, you miss the whole idea of what
Hmm.
the business is trying to do
Yeah.
because it's growing. So what McKinsey will do is just, well, this is what's going on in the market, and that's what's going on, and this is where you fit in, this is where you're mismatched. But that's only one aspect of it. I mean, when you have rigor without intuition, you really have just numbers and just you're mechanically doing what things to be done. But if you
Mm.
have intuition without rigor, you don't get anything accomplished.
Mm.
So you have to bring them both together. The intuition comes first, and then that's where the strategy I was telling you about in that 90
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
where the rigor is going through the strategy, helping ownership move through those blocks within themselves
Mm.
that are based on their old nervous system. It needs to grow. It needs to, and so that's where I come in, where I kind of push them into that rigor.
Mm. Amazing. What does conscious leadership mean in today's context of AI and related technology?
Ugh, I love this question because I love AI,
Mm.
but there's a difference here. What I'm seeing, and it's interesting because I see this a lot on LinkedIn with, excuse me, posts with
Hmm.
different posts. If you don't know your business, if
Hmm.
you don't know its culture, if you don't know what it is about, if you
Mm.
don't know its mission, if you don't know its ins and outs, working with AI is taking the humanness out of what you are creating. It's
Mm.
basically a machine. You're creating a machine. But a mission-led business is all about humans.
Mm.
And so if you know who your people are, if you know what you're trying to create to make the world a better place or whatever it is that you're doing, that is what you feed into AI so that it can bring it all together and
Right.
elevate it,
Hmm.
not create it. You
Mm.
never want AI to create your business. You want it to elevate your verbiage, elevate your ideas. That is the only way to really work with the AI and being a conscious leader.
Mm.
And I believe that more owners, more business leadership need to start there, not just, oh, I'm really stuck. Let me just find out what Claude says or some of the other AIs.
Mm.
And that then the ownership has more integrity when they are saying, this is everything about my business. What am
Mm.
I missing? Where are my blind spots?
Mm.
How can I create a stronger messaging for my collective that I am trying to help?
Mm. Amazing. Moving on now, you've got a forthcoming practitioner certification program that you're launching in September 26. Tell me
Yes,
a little bit
yes.
about this program. What does it entail, and who are the kind of people you would expect to attend?
Okay, so I'm really excited about it. And actually, I changed the name from practitioner. It's actually advisor because that's what we do. We're not coaches, we're not consultants, we're advisors. We
Mm-hmm.
come in, we do our work in 90 days, we're out. And then we come back at another point of inflection.
Mm.
So, what I decided was I've been using this method. It's the same method. It's repeatable. It always always creates a shift and change in both the business and the ownership.
Mm,
I've been doing this for like 27 years, so I know it works. And I decided that as a legacy for myself, and this is where my own inflection point came in, where I was like, oh, maybe I need to share this. Well, oh, that means I need to grow. And so I had to work on my own stuff to
mm,
allow myself to let this methodology go out into the world
mm,
and trust that other people will be using it
mm,
correctly. So I trademarked it. And I that's when I started Mission Led Institute so that it would
mm,
have a home.
mm,
And the type of people that will come into wanting this type of methodology
mm,
certification would be seasoned consultants, advisors, coaches that are looking for a methodology that has rigor and that also has repeatable success. So they're basically adding it to their toolbox.
mm,
And my biggest challenge with the certification is making sure that they stay aligned with the methodology
mm,
and don't get into the coaching or don't expect to use it in a retainer for owners. It's really a 90-day container, and it as long as they follow that, it is adding expediency to a business to allow them to really grow faster and not let this long,
yeah.
year to 2 year to 3 year, whatever their coaching contracts are, but to actually, take it. And the reason why we do 90 days in this methodology is because it's short enough to accomplish something and long enough to allow ownership to stay focused.
Mm,
And it also works with quarters. Companies work in quarters. So it works in that. So it aligns with so many different areas.
mm,
So a newbie, a new coach this would not work for them. It would
mm,
have to be someone that is seasoned, that has the understanding of how a business works, understanding of the patterns, because we do a lot of pattern recognition.
mhm,
We do a lot of pattern interrupt. Like, how do you do that? How do
mhm,
you stay focused on the methodology, not where the ownership's trying to take you?
Amazing. Time for one more question, Linda.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs building companies today who want both impact and scale?
Oh, yes. Um, First of all, we talked a little bit about AI. Do not let AI take the humanness out of your
Mm,
business.
mm,
Every owner is um, is has these brilliant ideas about how they want to make a change in the world,
mm,
and however it is. It doesn't
mm,
matter if it's a service or a product.
mm,
Remember that, because think of it as the mission is out there
mm.
somewhere
Yeah.
and it found you because you're the right one.
Mm,
Okay. And it's pulling you into it, and recognize that you have inside of you your ideas that
mm,
you will match with that mission and that will help you grow into it. But you need help. If
mm,
you start to notice that you're having a problem, it's typically not mindset, it's framework. It's always structural. It's not organizational, it's structural. It's the
mm,
structure between you and your business. And how do you keep yourself in the path of understanding its signals,
mm,
understanding how to read what it's trying to tell you? And so, if you want to be a conscious leader, and a someone that really does impact the world and
mhm,
scale, that is the fastest way to scale. That is what I have learned. That's why I kept testing this 90 days over and over. And my incubator, which is a group program, is in
mhm,
90 days also, because it works.
mm,
And so that pressure that 90 days creates even if you're a brand new owner and you want to scale, use everything in 90 days for yourself. Give yourself, don't say a year out.
Hmm.
Okay, if it's a year out, what can I get accomplished
Yeah.
that is big and moves the needle in 90 days?
Hmm. Wow. And on that note, Linda, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking us through so many different aspects of learning for business owners. And I'm sure everything that you've told us will be really listened to carefully by startup founders as well.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.